What is good, Michael?
What is good, Kelvin?
A lot of things.
Is it really?
Yes, we're back. Casual
Yes, we
Talk is
are.
back.
We are back in action.
Yes. Here to
So-
talk about all kinds of shit,
We are-
especially UFC 242.
Yes. What a fucking night that was.
Okay, so I want to say there's been a lot of great fights this year, right? But this fight in particular, Stylebender versus Robert Whittaker, it's like one of my top 5 most anticipated fights of the year. I
Okay.
could not fucking wait for this
No,
fight.
before the fight happened, you were super hyped up and excited.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And although it didn't go past 2 rounds, it was still exciting while it lasted.
Yeah.
And I got it wrong,
Yeah. You
but
did.
it was still a really good fight.
And I got it right.
You did get it right, yeah.
But the fight didn't play out how we both kind of
Mm-mm.
foresaw that fight going,
Right.
which was very interesting because when that fight happened, like the first thing you were telling me like, oh my God, I was not expecting Israel to have this kind of game plan. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and I told you like he kind of looked like John Jones in a way.
Yeah.
Just very patient, very high IQ,
Yeah.
right? Wasn't being so aggressive. Just it looked like he had a plan. He stuck to it,
Yeah.
and it paid
So
off for him.
I'm really surprised by a couple of things that played out in this fight. So when the fight opened, I wasn't sure how either fighter was going to come out. And I was a little, I don't want to necessarily say I was surprised that Robert went this way, but I didn't necessarily expect him to like be that
Yeah.
aggressive, right? Like
Yeah,
we know that he's an aggressive dude. That's just the way he fights. I mentioned in the previous episode that he loves lunging in. He loves blitzing in, like ducking his head and blitzing in. But he was just doing it over and over again. And I was surprised that he seemed to be throwing like the same combinations over and over again. He would like rush in, throw a jab, and then wait for Izzy to move his head over, and then he'd come around with the right
Yeah.
hand.
yeah,
And then the other thing that he was doing is every time that they would get into exchanges where they got really close, like not necessarily in a clinch situation, but they were close, he'd always come over the top
yeah,
on the exit over and over again.
yeah,
So to me, a couple things. Number one, there was a shot that Robert was successful with. He came in and landed a jab, and it sent Israel back. And like Israel, like he basically stumbled backwards and let all his weight bounce off the cage. And he did a similar thing versus Kelvin Gastelum, and that happened pretty early in the fight. So when that happened, I was a little concerned. I thought at that moment when that happened, I thought, here we go again. Like
Yeah.
the same thing that was happening to Israel in the last fight is going to happen again this time.
Mhm.
But Robert's a different animal. So
Yeah.
right from the get-go, like when the fight first started, I thought Robert was gonna
Yeah.
put him away, right? And then after a while, I noticed that Robert was like attacking a lot, and Israel wasn't attacking a whole bunch.
Mm-mm.
And that brought up two things. The first thing that I thought was, and I remember, I'm pretty sure you heard me say it, is I don't think Robert can keep this up for 5 rounds.
No, yeah.
Because
I heard you say that.
Not only was he aggressive and blitzing in, but he
Mhm.
was throwing fucking heat.
He was throwing some hard punches,
Hard.
and Israel was just dodging them, very
Mhm.
slick, dodging them.
Yeah. And so, like, it started concerning me because there's a couple ways that you can look at this, right? You take a look at somebody like, for example, Yoel Romero. If you look at Yoel Romero's strategy for a 5-round fight, like, for example, when he fought Robert Whittaker in this last fight, that first round, he did almost nothing. Like, he almost had even no footwork. He basically just tried to stand there and conserve as much energy as possible so that he would have enough gas to go 5 rounds.
Right.
Right? Or you look at a guy like Max Holloway, for example, who he'll start throwing strikes in the first round, but he doesn't really start opening up and letting go until the later
Right.
rounds, right?
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that like Robert was striking a lot that led me to believe he would run out of gas. It's like how hard he was throwing. Because you look at a guy like Colby Covington.
Mhm.
If you remember when we recapped the Colby Covington versus Robbie Lawler fight,
Yeah.
we found that Colby had thrown something like 500 strikes and 20 takedowns.
Mhm.
That's an insane pace, right? But Colby never throws anything at 100%.
Right.
Colby throws like shots at like 60%,
Right,
70%, right? Whereas opposed to Robert was putting everything in
Yeah,
his
he
shot.
was.
It looked like he wasn't trying to knock him out. It looks like he was trying to kill him. Like
Yeah.
that's how hard he was swinging, which was, I don't know, a little concerning to me.
Yeah.
And then he gets dropped at the end of the first, right? At that point, my mind started to change a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I thought Robert might be overwhelming Israel a little bit, and Israel just didn't have an answer for it. And then I started getting a bad feeling. And I told you, I was like, I have a bad feeling about this. I was like, something tells me that there's a reason why Izzy was so patient. I figured he thought Robert, I figured he saw the same thing that I saw. And he's like, Robert's not going to be able to keep this up for 5 rounds. All I got to do is wait. As soon as he slows down a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
it's time to go to work. but unfortunately, it never made it that far. Robert just got caught while he was being aggressive.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I took away was Israel's fight IQ.
Yeah.
Which is something that's not talked about a lot during these fights, right? We always talk about how fast someone is or how powerful someone hits, but we never talk about their IQ.
Yeah.
And how smart, they go through their game plan and they go through their fights. And one perfect example is John Jones, right? Like he went against Thiago Santos, who's a hard puncher. Yeah. But I think what separated him on that fight was just how smart he was, knowing that, I got to keep my distance, go in and out, in and out, in and out. Yeah. And Israel kind of reminded me of the same thing this fight. Very smart. He had a game plan. Don't get hit, right? And that's easy to say, right? When you get in a fight against a guy who just wants to knock your head off, it's easy to say don't get hit. But, I mean, man, was he dodging punches left and right. He dodged a couple leg kicks that at one point almost hit him in the face. Yeah. And I thought, way too close. But that was the biggest takeaway for me is how smart he was entering this fight, knowing that if that was his game plan, knowing that Robert was going to come in hitting hard, just knowing that, you know what, I'm not going to engage too much. I'm going to go in and out, let him tire out. And then once we get to the second, third round or whatever he had planned, I'm going to go all out. Yep. And there's something special about Israel. I saw it during the Kelvin Gastelum fight. Even before that against Anderson Silva, there wasn't too much action from him as far as being aggressive. The Gastelum fight showed how much of a brawl he can take and how he's totally okay getting those type of fights. But this one really showed me that, he's different. He's different. And I think I hope they don't underestimate Israel no more. No. I really hope they don't underestimate him.
He's the new Conor. So,
yes.
He's going to have haters.
And the media have been saying that he's a new Conor.
Dude, it doesn't matter what he does. He can go undefeated for the rest of his life. He could beat John Jones. He could go up to heavyweight and beat Stipe. It doesn't matter what he does. People are going to despise this guy.
Well, for sure. And I think this guy is our next star in the making, if he is already. Right. Even his entrance was fucking awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
That was awesome. So, I picked Israel. I didn't see this happening. Yeah. But I just had that feeling that Israel was going to come in very sharp, and he was so confident entering this fight, and he was confident even during the fight. Yep. And big ups to Israel in this fight. Right. And now, I'm excited to see where he goes from here.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'm really curious to see what happens with Robert too, because he lost, right? Yeah. But I don't think he lost in he got knocked down twice. Let's not get that twisted. But I don't think comprehensively he showed that he doesn't belong in there. I still think he's competitive.
Yeah. He's easily still the top 3 middleweight of the world. There's no question about it. I have no doubt that Robert's going to bounce back.
Yeah, dude. Here's the thing about this fight. It's a bummer because it's just the way he fights. Robert's just an aggressive dude. He doesn't like to wait. This blitzing style that he has, this vicious style that he has, he's always had it. Right. Right. So it's tough for me to sit here and tell a guy like that, he was too aggressive during this fight. Yeah. But I think even though he has an aggressive style of fighting by nature, I do think he was just a tad bit too aggressive in this fight. Just a little bit. To his credit, he had a little bit of success.
He did.
He touched him a couple times.
He did.
Right.
And there were a couple instances where, during some encounters, he could have easily landed. And that, like I said, it takes one punch to knock a guy out. Yeah. And even me rooting for Israel, I got a little worried, wow, I better be careful because if you get caught, you're done. But, I don't have any doubt that Robert will not bounce back from this.
Now, and try not to get too deep into the Conor comparisons, right? But I think this needs to be said. I was watching a lot of interviews after the fight, and because we're talking about him being overly aggressive, Robert being overly aggressive, and I have to wonder what. It was at the game plan.
Yeah, I was going to say
that thing, right? And so in line of the emotional thing, they asked him right after the fight. They were like, "What did you think when you saw his walkout, his dancing, whatever?" And Robert's not the type of guy to really like to talk a bunch of shit. And something you see a lot out of Robert is that you can still tell when he's bothered by something, but he tries his very hardest to not. You know what I mean?
For sure, yeah.
They asked him about his dancing, right? And Robert, you could tell he didn't like it. And they asked him, they're like, "What did you think when you saw that?" And you know what his response was?
What?
He said, "I wanted to hit him even more." Right? So going back to this Conor comparison, how much of that do you think actually played into the fight? Did Robert get emotional?
I don't know. I mean, I think their personalities are similar. They're very confident.
Yeah.
You can even argue maybe they're a bit flamboyant.
Yeah.
Right, in a way. So I can see that comparison, right? I mean, I don't know, man. Israel's just doing him.
Yeah.
He's just doing him, and he's been that way even before the couple last fights, right? Like if you watch him post-fight interview, he's the same person.
Yeah.
And that's just how they are, him and Conor.
Yeah.
They're very confident and cocky for sure, and for good reason, you know. And they give fighters what's the word I'm looking for, like
an incentive?
No, like they rub them the wrong way.
Oh yeah,
I guess
yeah, for sure.
And so I don't know what else to say about that. I mean,
maybe this is a good.
Don't worry about that aspect of a fighter,
right?
You know?
Maybe that's a good question for MMA Twitter though,
right.
because like there was a lot of things that Israel was saying, right? And every time they asked Rob about it, he said that not that it didn't bother him or whatever.
You know what? I mean, so you make a good point. Like, he wanted to hit him.
Yeah.
Did that lead into right away throwing hard punches?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, right?
It's like,
here's the thing, right? They always say that actions speak louder than words, right? Just the type of guy that Robert is, I actually believe him that the things that Israel was saying weren't really bothering him, right? So he might have not been bothered by the things that Israel said.
Yeah.
But if actions do speak louder than words, maybe he was actually. I mean, well, clearly he was bothered by what he was doing with the dancing, right?
Right.
You also have to wonder what else might have played into this.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were saying that this fight was very similar to the Ronda versus Amanda fight, in that the challenger was the one that was getting all the hype and the promos and stuff like that. People were talking about that the entire lead up, like the countdown episodes and all that kind of stuff. It seemed like Israel was the one that was getting the big push and not Robert.
Right.
You have to wonder how many of these things fed into Robert's mindset going into this fight, you know? Because the way he came out to me was kind of saying like, all right, I'm sick and tired of all these people talking about this dude. Let me show everybody why I'm the fucking middleweight champion, right?
Yeah.
You have to wonder if he got just a little bit too emotionally invested in this fight and it cost him.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I mean, the only way we can find out is as time goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting.
I'd really like to know what you guys think, though. Do you guys think that Israel was actually able to get under Robert's skin, not necessarily by what he was saying, but with a combination of the way that this fight was promoted and the walkout and stuff like that?
Yeah, man. I mean, great fight overall, though, and I'm excited to see where this now leads for Israel.
Well, I mean, it seems like the obvious direction to go right now is Paulo Costa.
Yeah. That's the right fight to make.
Yeah, so I know where you're going. So we had this conversation after the fight. But Israel himself, after this fight, they asked him about John Jones, and he reiterated. He said, if I'm going to fight John Jones, it's in 2021.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And John Jones says something like, by the time it's 2021, I'm going to be a heavyweight. Did you see that tweet?
I did not.
So I think it's a tweet, or I don't know if it was a comment or a post, but he said something. He was like, Israel, by the time it's 2021, I'll already be in the heavyweight division. That's what he said.
Interesting.
I'll find it and then I'll pull it up in the podcast.
Okay.
And I'll show you afterwards. But I saw it. I think I saw it last night, and I thought that was interesting. And that kind of leads into our discussion where I think you're heading to is, is it about making the right fight at the moment, or is it about making the biggest fights possible?
Right.
And the distinction between the two.
Well, the thing to me is that, like, skill for skill, I don't think that necessarily on paper that's an uncompetitive fight. I just think that if that fight happened anywhere within the next 6 months, it wouldn't be as competitive as people think. I mean, even they asked Daniel Cormier about it after the fight, and Daniel was like, don't get me wrong, he's like, Israel is an incredibly talented guy, but he's like, I think people are misunderestimating how big John Jones is.
He's a big dude.
There's
no question about that. But we also got to look at these two scenarios, right? The right fight to make is Israel and Costa.
Yeah.
I think we can agree on that. The bigger fight, though, is Israel and John Jones, just because the star power, the name power, and, them building up hypes at the moment.
Right.
And so do you see him facing Costa next, or do you feel like there's a possibility that him and John Jones can fight? Because it seems like if they're going to do it, they have to do it sooner than later, right? Instead of waiting until 2021, if that's the case.
Man, so I don't know. This is really tough because John Jones is a tough dude to deal with because he seems like right now that you told me he's like, oh, I'll be at heavyweight in 2021. He seems to me like to be a petty enough guy to like even if a heavyweight fight doesn't really make sense,
Right.
just because he already said it and like he just wants to like hold that over Israel's head,
Yeah.
he might move to heavyweight just
think
because.
so?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's tough to say, but I will say this: I think Israel, people are getting a little bit too overboard with like Izzy's chances against John Jones. I think Izzy can put up a great fight against John Jones, but in order for that to happen, he's got to put in several months of work
Right.
to get bigger.
Right.
He needs to be a big dude because
Right.
I think stature-wise, like height-wise, I think they're both 6'4", if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But just the size.
Well, I think the biggest disadvantage for him is the length.
Yeah.
I don't know what his wingspan is.
His reach, I don't know what it is either.
Me
But
neither.
John Jones is in the 80s.
Yeah,
It's like
84, I think.
or something like
84 inches.
that. And so, like, here's where it comes down to, right? Like, there might be people listening to this right now screaming that size doesn't matter or whatever, right? Which, in some, I mean, that maybe just be just like a pure, like, jiu-jitsu type of thing or wrestling type of thing. Like, Henry Cejudo would beat the shit out of somebody that's 7 foot, right? Just because he can get him to the ground.
Right.
But when you're dealing with two people that are both highly skilled,
Right.
size does begin to matter a little bit more.
Well, are you saying that based on just how hard someone can hit? As
No,
far as
I'm
strength?
just saying literally just weight and size, mass.
Okay.
Because like for example, let's say hypothetically those two dudes get in the cage right now,
Right.
like in the next month. I think Israel would give John Jones more problems than anybody has in years or anybody that I can think of on the feet, just in terms of striking,
Mhm.
right? The real size problem happens once John Jones decides he wants to start wrestling.
Mm-hmm. But how often does he wrestle, John Jones? I haven't seen John Jones wrestle in years.
I mean, to his credit, he really hasn't.
Yeah,
needed to.
I mean, I didn't see it against. We didn't see it against Thiago Santos.
Mm-mm.
We didn't see it against Anthony Smith. We didn't see it against DC. You know,
And it doesn't necessarily just have to be like wrestling exchanges.
Right.
Just the ability to secure one simple takedown. And look at what he did to Alexander Gustafsson, who's
Right.
much bigger than Israel Adesanya.
Right. I feel like at the later, the heavier weight divisions, I don't
Mhm.
feel like size is a big. It doesn't matter that often.
Well, we talk about that in like heavyweight, right? Because like
Right.
for example, you got a guy that's like 260 versus a guy that's 240 at heavyweight. Doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
But when you're talking about a guy that walks around like close to a heavyweight size, like he walks around at 220, 230.
John Jones does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Versus a guy who like is a middleweight and not a big one.
Okay, but that's his fight weight,
Yeah.
right? The guys, I'm sure Paulo Costa and Yoel they walk around easy over 200,
Oh yeah, have to.
right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
But both of those guys are like bigger dudes than
for
Israel,
sure,
you know?
for sure. But John Jones isn't that built. He's not muscular, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like a guy who just hits the gym all day type
Right.
of built. And then who knows how Israel looks like with the extra 15 pounds. I mean,
Right.
maybe he could bulk up. We
All
don't
I'm
know.
saying though is DC has been in the cage of John Jones
Right.
twice. He's felt John Jones.
For sure.
And he's been ringside for Israel. And if even he is pointing out how big the size disparity
Right.
is, I think there's like some truth to it, you know?
Well, I wouldn't use that against Israel because I'm very confident in Israel right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if he does move up to fight John Jones, you have to give the guy a chance.
Well, yeah, but
Don't
he's
just discount him out because
no. And that's why I was prefacing earlier that I think that Israel does have a chance. It
Yeah.
would just take like a significant effort from him, like months away from the middleweight
because
division.
I'm looking at
to
how
put on size.
Well, I'm looking at it as how would John Jones approach that fight,
yeah.
right? He's going to approach it the same way we saw Israel approach this past weekend's fight.
Yeah.
You know,
Here's basically my argument. The only way I see Israel having any success against John Jones is if he does what GSP did to go up to middleweight. GSP took time away from the sport
right?
and dedicated himself to getting bigger, to being a bigger human being, more massive, to getting used to walking around at that weight, and it worked for him.
Right.
So I'm definitely not saying that the reason I keep bringing up the size disparity is not to say that like this fight shouldn't happen because John is a big guy and he's going to beat Israel.
Right.
The reason I'm saying it is because if that fight happens anywhere in the next 6 months, that's not a good fight for Israel. He would need to take time away to acclimate to being just a bigger body.
Mm-hmm.
Because as it stands right now, John Jones at his regular 205 weight and Israel at his regular 185 weight, everyone sees that that's just not a good matchup. Israel would like literally need to change his body composition to get up to light heavyweight,
Right.
and give John Jones a good run for his money.
Well, I guess we can ask Twitter on what they think about that
Yes.
question. Because in no way am I saying Israel's going to win that fight. I still
Right.
like John Jones.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's a higher emphasis on weight at that point. for me at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
And for Robert Whittaker, what's next for him? Jared Cannonier?
we would have to look at the rankings. I mean, there's always Yoel.
Yeah. Which again,
Or Jared. Yeah, you're right, Jared.
and maybe we can ask Twitter this question again. Maybe I'm alone in this, but does anybody else feel like Yoel Romero should at least consider retiring?
At this point,
Yeah.
that's a good question to ask him.
You know?
Absolutely. Either that or move up a weight if he wants to still fight.
Mm-hmm.
Move up to light heavyweight. So I'm looking at the rankings right now. So with the loss, it hasn't been updated. The rankings have not been updated yet.
Okay.
So,
But we know Jared Cannonier beat Jack Hermanson, so wherever Jack Hermanson's at.
Yeah. So right now Jared Cannonier is number 5.
Number 5. Who's 4?
Jack Hermanson.
Oh, interesting.
Number 4 is Kelvin Gastelum. 3 is Yoel Romero. And then 2, Paulo Costa.
So the way I see it, either we do Robert versus Jared Cannonier sometime soon, like within the next couple of months, like early next year maybe, January, February, or he waits and he fights the winner of Darren Till and Kelvin Gastelum.
Yeah, very interesting. Absolutely. I forgot about Till, that he's entering the middleweight picture.
Yeah, he
if
looks
that's
fucking
what's the case.
huge.
Yeah. So no, I don't have, like I mentioned, I don't have any doubt that Robert wouldn't bounce back for this. He has a heart of a champion.
Oh yeah.
And I just don't see him not bouncing back from this.
No.
I think he'll be just fine, and I think he's still gonna be in the discussion, in the mix for years to come.
I feel like he
In the
went into
middleweight.
this fight thinking that he was much better than Israel. That's what I think his mindset was.
Yeah, so I think that played into it. You do make a good point, if whether emotion had to play into this in his mindset.
Right.
Because if that is the case, that does affect you.
All I'm saying is, look, the last time that he lost a fight was like 2014, I think, when he lost against Wonderboy.
Right.
And look what he did after that loss.
Yeah.
Right? So if he went into this fight thinking like I'm that much better than Israel, and he lost and he saw, okay, maybe I'm not that much better than him, like we're somewhere in the same category, maybe
Right.
he was in a little bit better than me,
Right.
we might see the very best of Robert Whittaker coming up.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Who knows?
You know?
Yeah. So that was that for the main event.
Dan Hooker, Ali Quinta?
Yes, I mean, so for me that was a dominating fight for Dan
Yeah.
Hooker. I had him 3 rounds. I had him all rounds, so I had him 30-27.
Yeah.
How did you see that fight? I think you said 30-26.
That fight, yeah, and one of the judges scored it at 30-26.
Yep. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I that fight played out the way that I thought it did.
Mhm.
So, man, I'm probably gonna get some shit for this. So I can finally admit it. I didn't want to admit it because I didn't really have any evidence beforehand. But I think that, and this is not meant to be disrespectful. It's just the way that I see it. But I think Ali Quinta has been a little bit overrated for a little bit of time.
Listen,
now.
do not be afraid to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't be
Yeah.
afraid to speak your mind.
So-
I said Ben Askren's overrated.
Yeah.
I can give 2 shits what people think about my opinion, but I felt like he's
Yeah,
overrated.
no, and I want to clarify. I'm not like a Ali Quinta hater. I like the guy.
Right.
He's a cool guy. I think he's fucking funny and like all
Right.
the shit that he does with real estate and whatever. And don't get me wrong. I think he's a good fighter. Obviously, he belongs to be in the UFC and in the top 15 or whatever. I just think that Khabib, when he fought Ali Quinta, I think he wanted to test himself going 5 rounds. I think if Khabib really wanted to and he wanted to fucking maul him, he
Yeah.
would have. So I think the fact that he went 5 rounds with Ali Quinta, or 5 rounds with Khabib, maybe elevated his stock just a little bit too much,
Yeah.
right? And then he fought Kevin Lee, right? Which
Mhm.
when he beat Kevin Lee, after seeing what Kevin Lee did to Edson Barboza, I thought, okay, well that's just a good win,
Yeah.
flat out. Especially
Yeah.
because Kevin had fought him before, so I mean that was a good win, right? But when he fought Cowboy, that's when I was like, okay, like
yeah.
he's clearly like losing this fight. He's getting
Right.
completely outstruck. And even though Cowboy's really, really good, I wouldn't consider Cowboy like the cream of the crop at 155 either. So
No, I wouldn't.
when I saw Dan Hooker move to 155, I saw a dude that was finishing everybody and just clearly went in there with violent intentions, was smart, mixed up his striking, did a really good job. And then he suffered that loss versus Edson Barboza, which to me was more of like a game plan issue, right? And then he came back and fought James Vick and laid him the fuck out. So
Yeah.
when this fight got set up, I didn't have really any evidence to back it up because at the time Dan Hooker's ranked at like 12 or something like that, or 11, and Al Iaquinta's ranked 5 or something like that, or yeah, somewhere around there, 4 or 5.
Well, yeah. So as of this past weekend,
Yeah.
Al Iaquinta was 6.
But okay, so looking at that fight on paper, if you look at the rankings, right, the favorite's Al Iaquinta, but going in, I already knew. I was like, I feel like Dan Hooker's a much better fighter.
You were very confident heading into this with Dan Hooker.
Yeah.
And I didn't know too much about him myself.
Yeah.
This was the first fight that I've seen him fight,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm very impressed by this guy.
Yeah.
Very impressed. I love the pace that he was keeping up against Al.
Yes. Yeah.
That was the big thing that stuck out to me with his pace.
Yep. And you got to give, even though I just said he's slightly overrated, you have to give credit to Al Iaquinta though, because he's never been TKO'd before.
Right.
He's been subbed and he's lost decisions, but he's never been TKO'd, and he was in danger of it in this fight.
I think at one point he was very much in danger.
So you got to give some credit to Al Iaquinta, because he's been in there with some fucking killers now.
Yeah, he has.
Khabib, Tony, Cowboy. Kevin Lee, Dan Hooker, and he's never been TKO'd before.
Yeah.
He fought Jorge Masvidal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you got to give some credit to Al Iaquinta. I just think from like just a fighter's skill set, like if you're going toe to toe with people in striking, toe to toe with people in wrestling,
just your overall.
I don't think he's.
I think it was clear that Dan Hooker was just a much better fighter overall, and it showed.
Mm-hmm.
So, big ups to Dan Hooker.
Yeah.
He's number 15th. He called out Dustin Poirier.
Yeah.
Number 2.
That's an interesting.
That's a very interesting fight. So when it happened, you turned to your left to me, and you said, "I love Dan Hooker, but he's not going to beat Dustin Poirier."
Yeah, exactly.
So what makes you say that if they were
I feel like lightweight is one of the few divisions where people are in their rightful place.
Uh-huh.
I think the top 4 people in the lightweight division deserve to be the top 4 people in the lightweight division, which would be Khabib, Conor, top 5.
So Khabib,
Conor, Tony,
Ferguson,
Poirier,
and Gaethje.
I think that those are legitimately
the top of the top.
The top of the top.
Yeah.
The top 5, the best 5 lightweights are in the best 5 lightweights.
I would agree, yeah.
By that same virtue, I feel like if Dan Hooker is number 6, that he's rightfully the number 6 fighter. Right? Like if those are my top 5, then I think Dan Hooker is the 6th guy, and there's nobody better than Dan Hooker. I think Dan Hooker is the 6th guy, and the only people that are better than him are the 5 people in front of him.
Would you say that Gregor Gillespie is better than Dan Hooker? Because that's another guy that you're very high on.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, actually. Mm-hmm. That's a really good way. I'm going to wait to see what happens with this Kevin Lee fight.
Okay.
But similar to me having a hunch that Dan Hooker was as good as he is, and he proved it.
You think this...
Yeah. So
I think so too.
I'm about to contradict myself.
Okay.
But I feel like Gregor Gillespie is going to beat Kevin Lee, and I feel like his performance will probably justify me putting him in the 6th spot.
Okay.
And Dan Hooker would move back one.
Okay.
Because I feel like if Dan Hooker and Gregor Gillespie fought, I think Gregor Gillespie wins that fight.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, then let's just see what happens with as you mentioned, Gregor Gillespie.
Yeah.
And Kevin Lee, which I think they're fighting UFC 244.
Correct.
And so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But no, I you know what, you do make a good point. I mean, I'm looking at the guys on the rankings. I'm looking at Paul Felder, Kevin Lee, Edson Barboza, Anthony Pettis, Charles Oliveira, Alexander Hernandez, and Islam
Makhachev.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
guy.
You know what? From seeing his performance this past weekend, I wouldn't disagree with you.
Right.
He looked that good.
Yeah.
That good against the number 6 guy in lightweight.
So that means that he's like 4-1 or 5-1 in the lightweight division. That one loss is Edson Barboza. And all of his other fights, other than this fight with Al, have been finishes. He's finished everybody at 155.
Let's say for any reason, they don't give him the Dustin Poirier fight.
I don't think they will. I think the move to make would be him versus Cowboy.
That'd be a good fight.
That would be a good
I was
fight.
going to say, do you envision maybe him and Barboza running it back?
Oh, shit.
Maybe for a potential fight night.
It depends on what they do with Edson Barboza, because there's been that talking about
with him and Felder.
Yeah, doing the trilogy.
Yeah, you're right about that. You're right. A lot of things have to play out, I guess, to see.
If they don't do the trilogy and Paul Felder needs a dance partner, I think he beat Edson Barboza, so I think he should fight Dan Hooker.
Dan Hooker?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no, I see Dan Hooker moving up the rankings very quickly if he gets those fights.
Yeah.
Right? Because those guys are top 10 fighters. So he can easily move up and then be right there in the picture.
And I respect it. Shout out to Phil, the MMA dude, who calls out people for not wanting to take tough fights, like Gregor Gillespie or John Jones. But you got to give credit to this dude, Dan Hooker, for, I mean, he's
calling the guys, like the top of the top.
Yeah, exactly.
Big ups for him for doing that.
Speaking of which, that's a question specifically for Phil, the MMA dude. Who do you think wins between, or how do you? I mean, I'm pretty sure I know who you think would win, but how do you think that fight would go between Dan Hooker and Dustin Poirier?
That'd be a great fight. Yeah. I'm curious on what's Dustin's next move now.
Yeah, see,
now that we're looking at the rankings,
that's a really good question. I think we've talked about this before. I feel like the only fight that makes sense is him and Conor,
right?
Because I don't want to see him versus Justin right now. Like, I don't want to see that rematch right now.
Dustin and
Justin.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to see that rematch right now.
Okay.
Tony and Khabib have business to handle.
We're assuming they're gonna make that fight because
Yeah.
I'm getting tired of reading Khabib and GSP.
Yeah, me too.
That's another thing that I contradict myself. Like, I always talk about, there's the right fights, but then the biggest fights. And I was just saying, like, you know what? Israel and Paulo is the right fight to make, but damn, would I really want to see him and John Jones?
Right.
By me saying GSP and Khabib is the bigger fight in scale, that's not the fight I want to see.
No.
So I kind of contradict myself there.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. The only reason I'm so against that fight is because people have been talking about putting it in the way of him versus Tony.
Mm-hmm.
But on paper, I would love to see that fight. Now, the problem is, right now, Tony is obviously way more deserving, right?
Absolutely.
The problem is that if he beats Tony and they're not going to give Conor his rematch right away, I think Justin deserves a shot at the title, you know? But
right.
I think if it comes down to it, Tony's been fucked over enough times that they're probably going to do Tony first. But I think that they would wash over Justin Gaethje to do him versus GSP.
My worry is, why hasn't that fight been announced yet?
Tony versus Khabib?
Yes, and the same issue that we talked about, Kobe just not accepting a fight for whatever reason, I think it's happening in this particular instance. I don't know what's going on with the management, why they haven't accepted a fight yet. Yeah. If it has to do with money, I don't know, but it's worrying me that it's not going to happen. And
you have to wonder, because Tony left his previous management because things weren't solidifying, right?
Right.
And it would be a little odd if he leaves his great management team, because the guys at Paradigm are outstanding dudes. They're a great company. It would be weird for him to leave them because he doesn't think that his needs are being met and him getting the fight that he needs. It would be weird to see him go to a new management company and he's also having the same problem.
Yeah. It's just it worries me, you know, because a lot of these fighters already have fights coming up, and Tony hasn't fought since he beat Cowboy, which was, I don't know how long ago that was.
Yeah, I don't know why I can't remember. What was it, like April?
So I mean, sometime, but I think it's Tony's due up a fight right now.
Yeah, for sure.
So that worries me. But to go back to Dustin, he has a couple options, but I think him and Conor is the right fight to make. I know a lot of people disagree because they're gonna say, you know, Conor and Justin is the right fight to make. But you can go back and forth. I mean, like you said, there's just the top 4-5 guys.
You know what?
Are so damn good in that division that any one of them can mix and match with each other.
Dude, I was dead set on Dustin versus Conor. Like, I didn't want to budge on that.
Right.
But now that you mention it,
Conor and Justin is going to be a great fight.
Dustin's coming off a loss. He just got a title shot.
Yeah.
And Justin has been streaking. He's winning at lightweight.
Right.
That's actually a really good point. Justin versus Conor makes more sense than Conor versus Dustin.
Right. It's hard to argue because, like, you can go either way. I mean, Conor can come back against Justin, who is in a win streak, or he can go against Dustin, who just lost against the title. He's number 2. He's right there.
And they run it back.
That'd be a big fight. And then you also got to look at it. I mean, Conor's just been teasing to fight either Masvidal or Nate Diaz. Like, there's just so much uncertainty in that for Conor in particular.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's going to go.
Right.
It's just a waiting game to see what happens. But we do know that Conor's training.
Right.
So, you know, I think it's safe to say he's sooner or later we're going to see an announcement from him.
I hope so.
On who he fights. But I don't want to get sidetracked. Let's stick with what we have so far in UFC 243 and what we make it of it. We talked about
well, there's
the
a couple
co-main.
things. There's a couple things that I still want to talk about from 242,
Sure.
like Tai Tuivasa breaking my fucking heart.
Oh man,
Ty,
I'm
buddy,
upset we didn't get to see a shoey.
bro. Ty, if you're listening, my guy and I here, we were gonna do shoeys for you.
We
If-
really
if-
were. Like,
yeah.
I seriously contemplated, like,
Yes.
am I gonna fucking do this shoey,
yeah.
dude? Like,
Gotta
am
do
I
it for
gonna have
MMA
to drink
Twitter.
a beer with your spit? I really contemplated it.
Oh shit, man.
Yeah. So, what was your thoughts on that fight? Because, like, that man, they were throwing it.
I don't understand. Maybe he gassed. I don't know what the problem was. Ty looked like he was gonna win
Right.
that fight.
Yeah.
I mean, he landed that one thunderous leg kick to start off the fight, completely swept the
Yeah.
guy under his feet. He was landing hard shots. He was getting him up against the cage. He was landing elbows from in the clinch. Man, I don't know what the fuck happened.
Yeah. Me neither.
If you looked at them, like if you looked at both of them, there was a moment in the fight, not long before Ty lost, where Ty still looked kind of fresh.
Mm-hmm.
And Sergey his face was all fucked up. His
Yeah.
leg was all bruised up. He looked tired.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck happened, man.
I don't know either.
But for sure it has something to do with like conditioning, because there's a moment where Sergey was working to get the mount and Ty's legs were completely flat.
Right.
They weren't even like posted up. They weren't anything. Like
Yeah.
it didn't look like he was really making an effort to get out of there. And he just fucking broke my heart, man.
Yeah. I can't remember. Did Ty lost off of submission or knockout?
He got submitted. It was
That's what it was.
an arm triangle, if I'm
I
not
think
mistaken.
the fight before that was it was a KO where the guy.
2 fights before that.
Okay,
The fight
that's what
before
it
that was Diego Lima, remember?
It was that
Versus
guy from
Lake
the
Jamo.
Contender Series you were
Yes.
saying. Okay.
Jorgen De Castro.
Yeah, I got a little mixed up there.
Yeah. What a story, by the way. If you guys don't know about this Jorgen De Castro guy, he comes from a small country. I believe it's Cape Verde,
Mm-hmm.
right, where they don't have a lot of mixed martial arts or anything like that. And he's just been having to work his way to get to like a big shot, like the Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. And I believe he was a big underdog in that fight. And he came out there, fucking scrapped, and got it done. And then his debut in the UFC is this massive fucking card.
Yeah.
And he's on the main event.
Isn't that crazy?
And he's with a training partner for Mark Hunt and Tai Tuivasa
Right.
in his home country.
Right.
Like, you're just throwing everything against this guy.
Yeah.
And he goes out there and fucking sparks him.
Yeah, he did. Though I'm pretty sure he got paid like shit though.
He probably did, yeah. But are you kidding me? Did you see his reaction after winning that?
Yeah, he was crying.
I think, I don't...
Or he had tears in his eye.
Yeah, and... But for sure, pay the man, because it's very clear why the guy's doing what he's doing. He said
Right.
it when he was on the Contender Series, that he was doing this to provide for his family.
Yeah.
And he was broke down in tears right after this fight, and he's like, man, he goes, get me in there as soon as possible, because I'm doing this for family, for my
him.
family, to
Yeah,
make
good
money
for
for
him.
my family. So pay the man.
Pay him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we pretty much walked through the entire
Is there
main
anything
card.
from the prelims that I wanted to talk about?
The only thing
so.
I remember we were talking about
Megan Anderson.
Yeah, Megan
Getting
Anderson.
that triangle.
That T-City girl.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yep. Oh, speaking of getting some money, Jorgen De Castro got a bonus after the fight.
So 50,000.
He got 50 G's,
Good for
baby.
him. Good for him. Christmas coming early, boys.
That's right. All right, this weekend, Jędrzejczyk versus Watterson.
Yes, there's a lot of good fights on this fight.
There is a lot of
card.
There is.
I'm excited for
So
this
let's
one.
just talk about the main event, yeah?
Okay. Joanna and Michelle Watterson.
Yes.
Now, a lot of people are saying that the winner of this fight should get the next shot at strawweight.
Probably.
I disagree.
Oh.
I disagree.
Okay, bring it. What's your argument here, Mike?
Well, I feel like people are overlooking the women's version of Khabib.
Tatiana Suarez.
I
Yeah.
think you guys are doing her dirty.
I think so, too.
And I don't like it.
Here's the thing, though. We know that she was injured going into her last fight,
Yep.
right? So she had to heal up afterwards.
Okay.
And also, I'm sure there are moments in fighters' careers, I'm sure, where they run into a particular obstacle that shows them, like, okay, I've really got some work to do before I'm right where I need to be, right? And I feel like this last fight for Tatiana was that, because everything that we saw from her was, as you said, it was Khabib-like performances.
Absolutely.
From her. She was smashing people.
Yep.
Take them to the ground and smash.
Yep.
She
was smashing that girl. Yeah.
Right? Well, in this last fight, it's not like she didn't have some success with that.
For sure.
But towards the end of the fight, she's starting to get peppered.
For sure.
She was starting to get hit.
Yeah.
And I think if right before that fight started, I would have told you that there's an incredibly big chance that she wins that fight.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at like the third round
Mm-hmm.
and you ask me what would happen if it was a 5-round fight, I think at that point it's a toss up.
Right.
I feel like her opponent had more of a chance
Okay.
in those later rounds.
If Joanna wins this fight and she gets the shot, that's, what is it, 3 title shots now that she's gotten since she lost her belt?
Yeah.
Can you really justify that?
No.
Like, come on. Like, you, as sooner or later, you got to give other people a chance.
Yeah. So what do you think about this then? What do you think the winner of this fights Tatiana Suarez?
So it's just, so if Joanna wins this one, I'm gonna be very upset if she gets another title shot.
Okay, that's fair.
I'd be upset if Michelle Waterson wins this fight. Then I'll have a different opinion because
Okay.
Michelle Waterson, I don't think she's ever gotten a title shot in her career, has she?
I
don't
she
think so.
has.
I don't think
Let's
so.
double check.
Damn, I'm looking at a picture of Michelle Waterson. God, is she hot?
Karate hottie, bro.
Karate hottie. She's fucking hot.
No, you're right. She's never had
So
a
she
title
hasn't.
shot in the UFC. She's
So
never had a
then
title
you're going to
shot.
be looking at, okay, so now if she wins against Joanna, former champ, former strawweight champ, then you're looking at either Tatiana or Michelle Waterson.
Mhm.
At that point, you know, either one of them could be deserving. I wouldn't be too upset if they give it to Karate Hottie.
Okay. So now let's
Though
talk
I don't
about the
like
actual
her
fight,
chances
though.
against, I can't pronounce the champ's name. Zhang
Oh, Zhang Weili?
Weili, yeah.
Yeah.
She looked like a monster last
Oh,
fight.
my God.
I don't like Michelle Waters' chances against her
Okay.
for that reason. I do like Tatiana Suarez against
Weili?
Rayleigh, yes.
Oh, okay.
I really do.
Interesting.
I really do. But
Yeah.
that's my thoughts. I will be upset if Joanna wins this fight and then gets another shot.
So this fight, though, between Jędrzejczyk versus Waterson.
Yeah, so I'm very interested in to see how Michelle comes at this fight.
Yeah, I think
Against a former champ.
this is going to be an entertaining fight.
I hope so.
These girls like to fucking
Yeah, I hope so.
strike, like,
Uh-huh.
and cool shit,
Right.
spinning shit,
Yeah.
you know?
I'm going to root for Karate Hottie on this one.
Okay.
I'm rooting for her on this one.
Man, if Joanna takes an L here, though, that's rough.
Well,
She'd be like,
it's-
what,
it's-
1-4 in her last
yeah,
fight?
so, I mean, it's going to be rough knowing that. So, what's her record following her loss? Like, her second loss against
So
Doug Rose?
she lost the rematch versus Rose.
Right.
And then who did she fight after that? She fight Tisha?
No, I think she fought for the 115 belt.
Was that after or before she fought Tisha?
I can't remember, but I know she lost against Valentina.
Yeah. I feel like Joanna fought. Let's take a look.
Do some research real quick.
Yeah, she fought Tisha after the rematch versus Rose.
Tisha Torres?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then she lost against Valentina. So yeah, man, if
She's 1-2? Is that what I'm reading? Or 1-3?
since losing her title, she's 1-2.
1-2, okay.
Yeah.
If she gets another loss, especially at against Michelle Waterson, I wonder what that would do to her confidence, because like one thing that stuck out to me when she was champion, she was overly confident.
Oh yeah.
Overly confident,
Oh,
calling
yeah.
herself the greatest ever, and I'm
Yeah.
like, calm down, girl.
Joanna champion.
Relax.
Yeah.
And since she lost twice against Doug Rose, I just wonder what that does to her personally
Well,
to take on another loss.
thankfully, it seems like it's done positives, because it seems like
Yeah.
I think instead of getting really upset about it, she seems to have humbled herself.
So I've noticed that on social media.
Yeah.
Like all her posts, very positive girl.
Yeah.
So that's
She's
a
even,
good sign.
she's been very respectful of both Rose and Valentina.
Very
after the
good,
fight.
very good. Because
Yeah.
even during that build up, I mean, come on,
Yeah.
she got a little too cocky there.
She did. Yeah.
And she got rocked.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So I mean, who do you like on this fight?
I feel like it's gonna be a good competitive fight,
Okay.
but I think Joanna edges it out.
Okay.
I think she lands just a little bit more and wins a decision.
I'm getting something out of you that you're saying this will be a decision win.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't see any KO submissions in this fight. You think it's gonna go?
Believe it or not,
distance?
I think if there's a KO, I think it comes from Michelle Waterson.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know how this fight's gonna end or play out. Chances are this may go through a decision.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be rooting for Michelle Waterson because she's one of my crushes.
All right.
Yeah.
That's a great
That's
fight analysis, there,
right?
Michael.
So if she gets hurt, Joanna, be careful.
Yep.
I'm gonna spam your DMs, you fucking bitch. No, but I'm gonna be rooting for Karate Hottie in this one. If she
All right.
wins, that'd be a great moment
Yeah.
for her in a career, because she's been talking about being the first mom the UFC.
Mom champ.
Yeah. So for me, I'd be MILF champ.
Oh,
That's what I'm gonna call her.
Let's go.
The
I
MILF
like
champ,
that.
bro.
MILF champ. You heard it here first on Casual
Yes,
Talk MMA.
she's gonna be the first MILF champ.
Hashtag MILF champ.
Though I do have a crush on Tatiana.
Yo,
I can't lie about that.
Speaking of MILFs, well, we'll get there. But Mackenzie Dern's on this card. But we'll get there. We'll get
Talk about MILFs, bro.
there. Co-main.
Cub Swassing.
Ice cream Crone Gracie versus
Me too.
Cub.
Me too. So I'm a big
Swanson.
fan of Crown Gracie.
Oh, me too.
I'm really a big fan of him. You mentioned to me before we started this episode that Cub Swanson, his last couple of losses or just something like that, you're saying that they've been him being tapped out or
obviously
submitted.
like I know you're not like super into like the jiu-jitsu world, but Crone's father is like the fucking legend.
Well,
in
that
jiu-jitsu,
I know,
right?
yeah.
So and he himself, like obviously he's not going to be like amazing just because his father, right?
Right.
But like he himself has shown, I mean, the guy has medaled at ADCC, which is the most prestigious grappling tournament in the world. He's clearly just a phenomenal jiu-jitsu
What
player.
I love about Crown Gracie is if this is any indication from his last fight, is he's not afraid to stand up against somebody.
No.
And the reason I say that is because there's another Gracie that fights in Bellator. I can't remember his first name. Neiman. He just fought against Rory, and that was just all ground. It didn't seem like he wanted to stand up. And it was nice to see Crown Gracie embracing the stand-up game.
Yeah.
Because he knows in the back of his head, if this goes in the ground, I have an advantage.
Yeah.
I've been doing this my whole life.
Right.
Right? With the best people that have ever done it.
Yeah.
Right? So I like that a lot about Crown, and I respect him more for that.
Well,
to build an overall game plan for him personally.
yeah, absolutely.
Very smart.
However, I think if this was just a straight kickboxing fight, I mean, let's not get it twisted. Cubs lost a couple fights here, but the guy's hands.
For
right?
sure,
And he
for
kicks.
sure. No question.
I think if this is just a kickboxing match, I think on the feet, Cub has
an advantage. Okay.
However, and back to what you were mentioning earlier. So Crone, we just talked about his lineage and just how insanely talented he is at jiu-jitsu in his ground game. We saw it in his last fight.
Absolutely.
Cub Swanson has lost 11 fights in his pro career, and
by submission.
7 of those 11 losses came by submission.
Yep.
That's not a good. It's not a good indication of the way this fight turns out.
Correct. So yeah, I'm all in on Crone right now.
Yeah,
I'm
me
all in
too.
on him on 145.
Yeah, which this breaks my heart again. It's kind of like the Kevin Lee situation where I can't take it if this dude loses another fight.
Cub Swanson.
Same thing with Cub.
Yeah.
And man.
Yeah.
This is just a bummer. I
Yeah.
love that dude.
Well, I mean that's all we have to say about that fight.
Yeah.
Mackenzie Dern against Amanda. What was her last name?
Amanda Ribas.
Yeah, I don't really know her personally.
No disrespect to Amanda Ribas, but fucking Mackenzie Dern is, if she makes weight, well, even if she doesn't, but hopefully she makes weight. But Mackenzie's just a fucking animal. Like,
she's a thick girl too.
She gets a lot of shit. And rightfully so. She's missed weight a couple times now. The whole fake accent thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shit that she gets credit for, that she gets discredited for, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, when she gets in the cage, she's a fucking monster.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know how this fight's gonna play out. I'm gonna be keeping my eye on it because they're both hot.
Yeah. But I'm taking Mackenzie Dern.
Me too. I'll take her as well.
Matt Frevola versus Luis Pena. This should be a fun fight.
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar on these two fighters. I think I've seen Luis Pena on a fight card before, but I don't think I've watched him.
Violent Bob Ross. Shout out to Violent Bob Ross. I'm glad he's fighting at 155 still.
Okay.
I'm glad he's fighting at 155.
155, yep.
And Matt Frevola had an awesome fight versus Lando Venata, and then he beat a much bigger opponent his last time out. I thought he looked really impressive. It was Jalen Turner. This is my sleeper for the fight, for the card.
Okay.
This is one of those fights that I don't think a lot of people will talk about.
You're gonna pick that over your boy Miguel Baez?
Miguel Baeza?
Overhead.
Yeah, I think it's a little early for Miguel Baeza to be putting on like
a
spectacular show.
Okay.
But I think he showed great promise in the Contender Series, so I'm excited to see him.
So that's gonna be your sleeper pick?
Okay. Yeah, Matt Frevola versus Luis Pena.
Okay.
This was a tough one to pick for me though. Violent Bob Ross is dope, dude. He's really dope. But so is Matt Frevola. God, man, this is honestly a coin flip. It's honestly a coin flip. I think I'm gonna slightly edge out and pick Matt Frevola though. Sorry, Luis, my bad, dude.
Wait, Matt Frevola, where is he at? I'm sorry, I'm looking at the cards trying to find him. Is this a main card fight?
Yeah.
Oh, got you. Okay, my
Yeah.
bad. See.
And then the return of this tough motherfucker in Eric Anders versus Gerald Meerschaert.
Okay.
Ya boy, Eric Anders.
Yeah.
That's his nickname. Ya boy.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
That's a crazy nickname.
Eric Anders, ya boy.
Interesting.
I'm taking him in this fight. Be a tough, powerful motherfucker. Yes, you heard that correct. I'm taking Eric Anders via just being tough and powerful as fuck.
Okay.
Brilliant.
I don't really have much to say about that. I don't really know those fighters.
Niko Price versus James Vick.
Now those two guys I do know.
Yes.
And poor James Vick, I see the same thing happening in the last couple fights to him.
I mean, he's fighting
Niko
at welterweight
Price is
now.
an animal. I've seen him fight. He's an animal.
James Vick is a big dude. It was kind of crazy. He's like 6'1" or something.
But
That's
he has
crazy,
no
right?
chin.
Well, that's the thing is, that's probably why he's moving up to welterweight. Is I'm assuming the weight cut was probably.
Shit! This is a welterweight fight.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that probably has something to do with it. His weight cuts were probably a little hard, right? So we have to give him that. We have to give him that benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
And see what he looks at 170, right?
Right.
But just stylistically, homeboy better keep his hands up because Niko Price is coming.
He can bring it.
Yeah.
He can bring it. So because of that, I'm gonna go with Niko Price on this one.
Also, unfortunately, one fight that we're not really going to talk about because we don't have enough information, but we should definitely mention it, is Davison Figueiredo versus Tim Elliott. That's an important fight for flyweight.
Very important fight.
So obviously don't take it from us because we're not talking about it. Right. But if there is something you do take away, you should watch that fight.
You know what's crazy too that you mentioned about that fight is like you have a guy that's ranked number 3 in that division against a guy that's ranked number 6, and it's buried in the prelims. If that's not saying something as far as where the UFC's mindset on that division, I don't know what does.
Exactly.
That says a lot there.
Yeah. Max Griffin fighting Alex Morono.
Max Griffin, I see him. Yep,
should be a good fight.
I've seen him a couple times, so I'm looking forward to seeing him fight.
Yep. And fucking Chito Vera versus Andre Ewell. Andre Ewell, local guy. Shout out to him. He's from Riverside.
Oh, nice.
And Chito Vera has been putting on great shows. It's kind of sad.
I feel like I've seen this guy when we were at the Hana Center.
Chito Vera?
Yeah. Does he train with a particular fighter or in the same camp as one of the fighters that we went to go see at UFC?
I think so.
He looks very familiar, like I've seen him. But but
it's about time they give this guy a ranked fighter. I mean, don't get me wrong. Andre Ewell is a good fighter, and this is gonna be a good fight.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily picking Marlon to win this fight definitively.
Okay.
I think he will win this fight, but this should be a good fight anyway. Honestly, this fight should have been on the main card. This is a good fight.
Okay.
Marlon Vera versus Andre.
Yeah, I mean that one too is buried in the prelims.
Yes.
So I mean that's it for UFC Tampa.
So one more thing, I want to talk about Bellator last weekend. On Friday.
For Lorenz.
Yes.
I wasn't sure if you wanted to talk about it because I remember when we were previewing his fight, you didn't want to talk about it.
Right.
Let's talk about it.
Now the fight's here. De Monsoon, Lorenz Larkin got the dub.
Yes, he did.
And man, it was a crazy fight. Like it was a roller coaster.
Yeah.
So,
can I give my feedback on the fight? Because I did watch that fight live.
Okay.
So, right when you text the picture of him coming out, I immediately went on Bellator because that was the only fight that I was looking forward to was Lorenz. And I saw you on TV. I don't think I told you this.
Oh yeah, you did.
But I saw. Well, I tell you like in front of you.
Yeah.
I saw you and I saw Lorenz. You guys like clapped hands and you're like, "Let's go!"
Yeah.
And I was like, "That's vintage Kelvin right there." So I saw you and that was pretty funny.
Yeah. So we talked about it off camera.
Yeah.
But I was looking forward to this fight, because of their individual styles.
Right.
I thought their individual styles made for a good matchup. However, it didn't play out the way that I would hope stylistically in the third round.
Right.
So we'll get to that. So the reason I was looking forward to this fight is because they're both very creative strikers. I'm not exactly sure what Andre's background is, but I've seen him fight several times.
Yeah.
And he mixes up his striking. He uses kicks. And I like his pace that he fights at. It's not necessarily super fast or like super aggressive, but I like the way that he moves and the way that he mixes up his striking.
Yeah.
Now, Lorenz, on the other hand, also a very creative striker.
Yeah.
Throws a lot of weird like things that people don't normally throw, like these oblique kicks that he likes to use a lot. But he's one of the rare combinations of people that throw like a lot of combinations and throws with power too.
Right.
Like the power to put somebody to sleep.
Yeah, I definitely saw that on that fight.
So that's where I thought the matchup really lied, is who's going to be able to get more creative.
Yeah.
And will Andre have an advantage like speed wise,
Yeah.
or is Lorenz going to have an advantage power wise, right? So the fight opens up, and Andre lands this fucking wheel kick.
Yes, and then that's where I got a little worried because, I've never watched these two fighters fight before, but I was rooting for Lorenz, just because he's a local guy.
Yeah.
And when he landed that, I was like, damn, is Lorenz gonna be taken out in the first round?
Yeah, I mean, to his credit, obviously he's a super tough dude, but
He's very tough. He got right back up.
But it was a little nerve wracking, obviously being there. And I went back and watched the replay, and like, it's so interesting to go back and like watch details, right? So he gets kicked, he immediately scoots back and like starts standing up, and you can actually see that on his way up, he's still weaving punches on his way up, right?
Yeah.
Until he was able to break free and he composed himself. And I saw a lot of people on the internet saying that he recovered really fast. Like, man, he recovered really fast.
He very much did. There's no question.
I just don't think he got. I don't think actually think he got hurt that bad. Even he said it himself after the fight. That it just kind of like surprised him. It kind of like snuck up on him.
Right.
Right. But then in the second round.
The second round was complete domination. There was no question about that.
That's a 10-8 round.
Absolutely. At one point, I really thought Lorenz was going to take him out.
Yeah.
I really thought so. But credit to Andre for sticking in there.
Now, the round of conversation is round number 3.
Yes. So let me give you my thoughts on that one. Okay. So I had Lorenz. Well, actually, the first one I did have Lorenz. No, I think I had Andre the first round.
Okay.
I had Andre
I think a lot
the first
of people
round.
did. Yeah.
The second round, complete domination from Lorenz.
Yeah.
And then
10-8.
At first, I said 10-9, but then after thinking about it, entering the third round, I said, you know what? I'm going to do that 10-8 as well.
Yeah.
Domination. Third round.
I mean, it was a near finish.
Exactly.
A near finish.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
Third round, I felt like Andre had a control. The thing that, for me personally, was he didn't do much action. And that's a prime example that I see time and time again. For example, Darren Caldwell.
Yeah.
I think against Horiguchi, when he was dominating, just wrestling him against the cage, but did not do any action. He didn't move forward, didn't throw punches, no attack, nothing. That should be an example for these fighters. Is if that's the kind of style you're gonna go into in a fight, you have to, do something.
Yeah.
You've got to work. You can't just control a guy against the cage and not do anything.
Right.
That's not going to win you fights.
Like, for
this
example,
is not a wrestling match.
Exactly.
This is an MMA fight.
Yes.
Fight.
Yes.
You've got to fight.
Yes.
He did not fight.
Like, for example.
And because of that, I gave it to Lorenz.
Yes. People talk shit on, like, Khabib, for example, right?
Right.
But, like, anybody that says, like, grappling is boring, whatever, Khabib is boring. If you watch Khabib, that dude takes people to the ground, and he's advancing. He's locking people's limbs up. He's advancing. He's
ground
striking.
And pound,
he's
everything.
Trying submissions.
That's someone that wants to fuck you up.
Yes.
I did not see that from Andre.
Lorenz said something in his post-fight interview also. He said, all right, that's fine. Like, if you want to take me down and you can get me down, that's fine. But work. Do something,
sure,
right?
yeah.
And Lorenz, not only was he able to get back up to his feet several times, but he was throwing strikes to the head. He was throwing elbows. He was throwing
I was
knees.
paying attention to that.
And Andre wasn't doing anything.
He was not. I think he had a pin against the cage and he wasn't doing anything.
And
he just sat there.
Obviously, like, you never want to get in a position where you're, like, making strong assumptions about fighters because they're the ones in the cage.
For sure.
Right? But to me, I don't think I've ever seen a more clear example of legit, for, like, lack of a better phrase,
right?
I don't want that smoke.
Right.
Yeah. You saw, I mean, who knows? Maybe he hadn't recovered fully after that.
We don't know. I don't know.
But to me, that was legitimately like, I don't want to get hit anymore. Yeah. That's all that was to me.
Yeah. I mean, whatever it was, I mean, it is what it is. But like I said, that's a perfect example. If you're gonna wrestle somebody, you have to have the intention of doing damage.
Yes.
And if you don't do damage, you're not gonna win on the scorecards. I'm telling you.
Right.
You're not. And because of that reason, Lorenz won that round because even though he was being controlled, he was still throwing punches where his opponent was not.
Right.
And I can tell that Lorenz was frustrated because right after the bell rang, he shook his head.
Yeah.
I paid attention to that.
Yeah.
He shook his head, and I knew he was very frustrated on that there.
Yep.
So, and he didn't even shake his hand following the fight when they got.
Really?
Yeah, because normally when the bell rings at the end of the fight, they'll kind of shake hands and head towards their corners. Someone's calling me. I apologize. Lorenz, he just went straight to his corner. Didn't even want to acknowledge him. I think he was just very frustrated
I
that he was
could've
just being
sworn-
pinned and the guy not wanting to fight him.
Maybe it was off camera, but I could have sworn, because I was there in person, right? And I'll be honest, I don't remember for sure, but I'm like 70% sure I remember them embracing each other after the fight. I think I saw them hug each other. Well,
once they announced the winner, they embraced.
Okay.
But following the fight itself, they did not embrace.
Right.
So that told me that Lorenz was frustrated.
You know what's cool though? I went through Andre's Instagram after the fight to see what he would say.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I expected him to say something about a robbery or whatever, but I liked what he had to say actually.
Right.
He said I don't think that I lost that fight, and I was like, oh fuck, here we go.
Well, I disagree.
Like, and he goes, but if you ask me if I definitively won that fight, I don't think I can say that either. I'm like, oh, okay, that's fair.
For sure, yeah. So that was my takeaway in the fight. I was very impressed by Lorenz.
Yeah.
And I definitely am looking forward to his next fight.
Now, speaking of which, I'm pretty sure we can talk about this.
Are you sure? Because I didn't want to say anything.
Yeah, I hope I don't get in trouble. I'm pretty sure
you want to text your team and make sure it's okay?
No, I think we're okay. I think
okay.
I think we're all right. But
all right.
So Big John interviewed him after the fight.
Yeah.
And we all know that this Grand Prix is going on, right? And we have Douglas versus Rory coming up.
Yep.
And they asked him. They said, "Who would you rather see between those two guys?"
I think he
responded, "Lima." Because he's lost to him. And he's like, "I want to get that L back." Right.
Good for him.
Yeah. But that was just some respectful misdirection there.
Okay.
Because it sounds like what he wants to do is he wants to get into the cross promotion game, and he wants to go over to Japan and fight in Rising.
That's very exciting, man.
Hell yeah, it's exciting.
I wonder though, like, because the whole setup in Rising is different.
It is.
You're fighting what looks like a ring.
Yes. So
opposed to an octagon.
We asked him about that after the fight, and he didn't have any problems with it.
He didn't.
He's like, I fought in a ring before. And
nice.
I pointed out to him, I said, at least you'll know that nobody's going to hold onto your legs for the third round and not get hit. Like,
right. That is true.
Yeah. So, man, that'd be super dope. That'd be super dope.
Yeah. And don't they fight multiple times in one night?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if something like that would go on, but
because I wonder if he's just going to fight one time during
I would assume
New
it's
Year's,
the one fight. Yeah, it's the New Year's one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'd be really, really
that's
cool.
exciting. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love seeing guys want to challenge themselves, especially doing cross promotions.
Yeah, dude.
That's very exciting. Because I know Pitbull, or Scott Coker had mentioned Pitbull about sending him out to Japan to try to win their featherweight belt or whatever.
That'd be comedy if a Rising guy has a Bellator belt and a Bellator guy has a Rising belt. That'd be comedy.
You know what's funny? Did you notice the banners? Haraguchi was on the banner.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, that's a Rising guy, boys.
Yeah.
That is a Rising guy.
Which, by the way, that's one of the coolest things that, in my opinion, that Bellator does. It's something so simple, but having all your champions on banners up there,
for sure,
super dope.
Yeah, that's cool.
So we just talk about some current event shit.
Well,
now?
hold on. We talked about our thoughts on the fight, and bigs up to Lorenz Way in that fight.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about your experience with Bellator? Because I talked about mine's past week.
I think the big difference between our experiences was probably the venues.
The venue,
because I agree with you. I'm not a fan of the Forum either.
For sure.
And this is my first experience going to Pechanga. Period.
Okay.
So I'll be honest. I was curious to see what it was going to be like. Cause I'm like, all right, it's at the Pechanga, so the venue's probably going to be a little smaller.
Yeah.
After being there, I fucking love that place.
That's awesome.
I'm for sure going the next time they go because it's a smaller venue, right? But the way that it's set up is fucking awesome.
Very good.
So basically, what happens is they've got rises on both sides.
Okay.
Of like this rectangular shaped room.
Okay.
And they put the cage right in the middle, and there's chairs on all four sides of this rectangle, right? And there's bleachers on two sides, and it rises up on the other two.
Yeah.
But just the way that everything is shaped and where everything is positioned, it's like one of those places where like there's not a bad seat in the house.
Yeah.
And not to mention the aesthetic, it's just so fucking nice in there.
Yeah.
Like it's really nice in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I thought it was super dope.
That's good.
And there's a dedicated lobby to the people that are at the venue. So you just walk out of the room and you're in a lobby with a bunch of places to get food and drinks and stuff. I loved it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, that's very good to hear because it's very close to us.
Yeah.
So I look forward to attending an event there.
It's a good venue to go to for an MMA
that's
fight.
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that's it for Bellator. What do you want to dive into next?
Tyron Woodley.
So what about T. Wood?
So I don't think there's a fighter on the UFC roster that not only that I don't that I. Let's put it this way. I'm by default pretty much a fan of any UFC fighter.
Okay.
I've just become bigger fans of them as I watch them fight and as their careers develop, right?
Okay.
That being said, the reason I said that is because I say this a lot before most fighters. I love this guy or whatever. But that's true. I love most of these dudes. Tyron Woodley's one of them. I'm a big fan of Tyron Woodley. Love that guy.
Okay.
However, he's breaking my heart right now.
How so?
He posted on his Twitter his wish list of his next couple of fights.
Okay.
Right? He posted Kamaru. Don't necessarily have a giant problem with that. I don't either. I would like to see him fight one more time just to show me something. Because he's saying that he could do better. Well, show me. I want to see
for
that,
sure, yeah.
You know? So I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Colby, definitely don't have a problem with that.
I don't have a problem with that either, yeah.
Israel Adesanya?
Yeah.
You want to fight Israel Adesanya?
Well, I mean,
I don't even know if I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
And then after that, he said Khabib.
Khabib, yeah.
And then after that, he said in that order.
Right. So then let's talk about the order. Let's start with Kamaru.
Yeah.
Okay. Is he saying that's what he wants his next fight to be, or is he saying these are the 4 guys that I hope to fight? Like, that's my wish list.
Well, I don't know. That's a good question.
You know
My hope is that he would just eventually like to get to these fights.
Yes. Right.
That's my hope.
Okay.
I don't think Dana's going to give him even
an
if
immediate rematch. No.
Well, it wouldn't be immediate at this point, but he wouldn't give him the rematch just like that. He's got to fight somebody else also.
Right.
My other problem is time.
Mm-hmm.
If this was a 27-year-old guy saying I want to fight all these dudes, like for example, we're having this conversation about Israel and John Jones, and I keep talking about how Israel would have to take some time away from the sport. The guy's 29 years old.
Right.
There's time for him to do this.
For sure, but not John Jones.
Oh well, even John Jones is 31. Like,
shit! I thought he was older than that.
No,
okay, never mind.
John Jones is a young guy. He still has plenty of time, and especially he fights at a heavier weight class.
Yeah.
Where people go later in
For
their
sure.
careers. Tyron Woodley's 37.
37, yeah.
I mean, clearly he's a unique athlete. Like, he does not look, or can he fight like a 37-year-old?
Yeah.
Like, you got to give him that credit.
Yeah.
But I don't see. First of all, good luck getting through these 2 fights first. If we're going to assume that you're going to have to fight somebody else before Kamaru, right? I think you can do it, but still, good luck trying to get through those 3 fights. Whoever you fight next, Kamaru, and then Colby.
Mm-hmm.
Next, Israel Adesanya. Like, we're having this argument about size or whatever, right?
Right.
Tyron Woodley's not a big guy.
No, he's shorter than me.
Yeah, he's shorter than me.
Yeah.
Right? And clearly that doesn't prevent him from being a welterweight champion.
No.
But we're talking something different when
That's
you're talking
a big
about
disadvantage.
Middleweight. I mean, go back and watch the ESPN interview after Jared Cannonier beat Jack Hermanson. Cannonier and Woodley are right next to each other. Mm-hmm. Look at that size differential.
Yeah.
Robert Whittaker is a problem for anybody.
Right.
Israel is a 6'4" problem.
For sure.
You know? Like, not to mention, if he wants to fight Israel, they're not just going to give that to him. He's probably going to have to fight somebody else in middleweight.
Well, I think he would need to be a champion for them to even think about
exactly, right? So good luck on all of that.
Yeah.
And then after that, Khabib was probably going to be retired by the time you do all of that.
Which we're assuming he wants to move up to 170, which I don't think he's going to want to, yeah.
So, Tyron, I don't have a problem with you wanting to do these things, but don't talk about it, my guy. Like, what are you doing?
Well, to be fair, it is a wish list.
I know.
So, I mean, wish lists are they're tended to be, you know, what's the perfect way to phrase it? It's like a Christmas present.
Yeah.
In a way, right?
But it also, you're right. I have to give you that point, right? That it's just a wish list. It's not necessarily. It's not like he's saying I'm going to do this.
Yeah,
right? I'd like to do this.
Yeah.
I'll give you that point for
sure. Yeah.
But at the same time, I also am concerned with where people's minds are at. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, when Henry Cejudo beat Marlon Moraes, that is such a gigantic moment.
Yeah.
For once, people were looking at, in just those couple of seconds, people are looking at Henry Cejudo in a positive light.
Right.
Like, holy fuck. And then he takes that opportunity to fucking call out Uriah Faber and Dominic Cruz.
Yeah, that was a terrible call out. He could have done better than that.
Somebody messaged me on Twitter and said, well, that doesn't mean that fight's going to happen. And I said, that's true. I'm not angry about the fact that these fights are gonna happen. I'm angry about his mindset. Like, right. Well, that's where your mind is.
I think you're angry that he decided to use that moment to then call out people that are not even relevant in the moment. He could have used that time better.
Yes.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So Tyron's wish list should be fucking Leon Edwards
or Wonder Boy Thompson,
the Wonder Boy, the winner of the BMF belt, like
for sure. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I understand where you're coming from. So don't make wish lists, people.
Or make it reasonable.
You're gonna
at least
piss Kelvin off, and I gotta fucking hear this shit.
That's my wish list. Is make your wish list reasonable.
I know. Well then let's talk about who we feel like Woodley should fight next, because he's still sitting.
One name and one name only, in my opinion.
What's that?
Leon Edwards.
I like it.
Yes.
I like it. I'm sold.
And for those of you chuckling back there saying Leon Scott, fuck you. You're part of the problem. That's why people are calling him that.
Dude,
Leon Edwards is legit.
The disrespect Leon Edwards gets online.
It's ridiculous.
It is a bit ridiculous. Like, I feel like, how do I feel about Leon Edwards? I still feel like he's still another fight or two away from being the conversation. But even I can't deny he's heavily being disrespected in online.
Yeah.
People are really like not giving him his just due.
And here's the thing. I think I'm not super tripping about it because I think he's going to get his due eventually. It's kind of like when fucking Conor McGregor, because right now he's probably suffering from being like, this is not my opinion.
Okay.
It's just what people seem to think, the humiliation at the hands of Jorge Masvidal with the 3-piece in the soda thing, right?
The 3-piece in the soda.
It's kind of similar to like when Conor McGregor humiliated Jeremy Stevens.
Oh man,
fuck is that
he's
guy?
gonna forever be remembered for that moment.
And look at where Jeremy Stevens is right now.
Yeah.
People fucking love that guy.
Yeah.
So I think if Leon Edwards happens to hear this, I think you're doing the right thing. You're not trying too hard to get your name out there.
For
whatever.
Sure.
Just keep doing your thing, man.
Yeah.
Just keep doing your thing. Eventually, people are gonna notice. Eventually.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I like that fight with him and Leon, or Woodley and Leon Edwards. I think that makes sense for both fighters. For Leon wanting to get in that discussion of eventually fighting for a title, and then Woodley for rebounding following his loss.
Yes.
Because it's going to be very interesting to see how Woodley comes back from his loss.
Yes.
Very
interesting.
Are we going to get the Woodley that we should have seen against Kamaru?
Yes.
Or are we going to see a Woodley that just isn't motivated anymore because he's got so much things going on in his personal life with his music and TMZ and all this other things that are away from the cage?
Well, I think you nailed it, because that's really what the question that needs to be answered.
Yeah.
Was that night versus Kamaru really an off night?
A fluke?
Or is Tyron really done?
Yeah. Is he just, fighting is just, he's not, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have that nature anymore. He sees that he's making more money in his other avenues, that maybe he's not putting the sweat, the blood, the tears that you need to put in order to be a top level fighter.
Yeah.
So, we'll see.
All right. I think that's it, yeah?
I think that's it. We're just going to wrap it up here now. About a minute and 15.
Yep. All right.
Should
Sweet.
be good.
We'll see you guys next week, ladies and gents.
See you guys.
Peace.